In our interviews, we often find ourselves discussing with our guests whether they felt like the time was right to undertake some projects or take a particular decision. Well, answering to similar questions is no easy task, especially when you stop and wonder about the very nature of time. It is hard to give an objective definition of the concept itself, although far from being an exhaustive answer, time is essentially what we measure using a clock or calendar. By conventional agreements, we can describe the flow of time through numbers called times, dates, clock readings, and temporal coordinates, and we can coherently specify how long an event lasts. Moreover, we are able to place all events in a single reference frame into a linear sequence, one after the other, according to their times of occurrence, so that for any two instants, they are either simultaneous or one happens before the other, but not vice versa. This objective definition of time stems from direct observation of events that seem to occur and evolve independently of anyone's perception. Indeed, already in ancient Greece, Plato conceived time as related to regular physical events such as the motion of celestial bodies, which are ideal instruments to measure time since their orbital periods are regular and eternal, and therefore can be used to identify human time, such as the duration of one day, sunrise to sunset, and the duration of a month, lunar cycle. Later on, Sir Isaac Newton himself asserted that time is part of the fundamental structure of the universe, exists independently of any perceiver, and can only be understood mathematically. Time is therefore an entity in its own right, and we are just temporarily occupying it without being able to perceive it and understand it in its absolute nature. Nonetheless, there are occasions in which time seems to expand or shrink independently of its objective measurement. Have you ever felt time slowing down during a boring lecture? Or have you ever looked at the clock while doing something enjoyable and wondered how minutes and hours had disappeared so quickly? This ultimately begs the fundamental question: does time exist outside of us? Outside of our perception? Aristotle was among the first philosophers to support the idea of time existing only in relation to the motion of things and as an attribute to movement. He argued that time is essentially a measurement of change, defined according to some kind of succession or motion, and is subjective in the sense that it requires the presence of a soul capable of numbering the movement to identify it. Successively, St. Augustine devoted many thoughts to the nature of time, and he too adopted a subjective view, with time existing only in the mind's apprehension of reality. In the words of the early Christian theologian, "What then is time? If no one asks me, I know. If I wish to explain to him who asks, I know not. Yet I say with confidence that I know that if nothing passed away, there would not be past time, and if nothing were coming, there would not be future time, and if nothing were, there would not be present time. What now is manifest and clear is that neither are there future nor past things. But it might be right to say there are three times: the present of things past, the present of things present, and the present of things future. For these three times do somehow exist in the soul. Otherwise, I would not see them. Present of things past, memory. Present of things present, sight. Present of things future, expectation. But how is the future diminished or consumed, which as yet is not? Or how does the past, which is no longer, increase, unless three things are done in the mind that enacts this there? For the mind expects and considers and remembers that that which it expects, through that which it considers, may pass into that which it remembers. Future time, which is not therefore long, but a long future is a long expectation of the future, nor is time past, which is now no longer long, but a long past is a long memory of the past. When we think about a moment in time, all we can really do is think of an event that happened at that moment. We cannot point to or even describe the moment itself. This anti-realist view propounded by Gottfried Leibniz saw time merely as a convenient intellectual concept like space and number that enables us to sequence and compare events. Thus, time ceases to have any meaning unless there are objects with which it can interact or relate to, so that, in a very real sense, the events taking place actually are time. More recently, the French philosopher Henri Bergson formulated a more compelling view of subjective. He envisioned the flow of time as actually composed of tiny temporal particles which are pieced together by our consciousness, noting that as soon as one tries to measure a moment, it is gone, and that the passage of time is subjective for different individuals in different circumstances. Bergson concluded that duration, or time, can only be shown indirectly and incompletely, and can only be grasped through a simple intuition of the imagination. In a more drastic conclusion, the German existentialist Martin Heidegger explained that we do not exist within time, but in a very real way, we are time, and the whole concept of time is inseparable from the human experience. Partially recalling St. Augustine's thoughts, Heidegger also noted that because we can allow the past to exist in the present through memory, and even allow a potential future occurrence to exist in the present due to our human propensity to care and be concerned about things, then we are not stuck in simple sequential or linear time, but can step out of it almost at will. After a brief journey through philosophy, we ultimately have no definite answers about the nature of time, and will probably never have them given how abstract the concept is. Personally, I stand by St. Augustine's words and claim that no one can really explain what time is. But if one truly believes that time depends from their own perception, then it's worth living it as it feels best, without constantly chasing the hands of a clock.